Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Several prominent political figures denied any involvement in the alleged destabilization plot against the Marcos administration.
House Speaker Bogie D vows the measure expanding ICI's powers will be swiftly approved by the lower chamber.
Over 300 overseas Filipino workers who became victims of human trafficking in Myanmar scam hubs are set to be repatriated.
Caterina Ponce Enrile, daughter of Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile, confirmed that her father is currently in the intensive care unit due to pneumonia.
First in the news, several prominent political figures are accused of being involved in efforts to destabilize the Marcos administration. But those identified were quick to deny the allegations. Here's the report.
Former broadcaster Mon Tulfo has named several prominent political figures supposedly behind efforts to destabilize the Marcos administration. Among those Tulfo named in his Facebook post last November 10 were some retired military generals, Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong, lawyers Ferdinand Topacio and Vic Rodriguez, former Congressman Mike Defensor, former Ilocos Sur Governor Chavit Singson, and Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Tulfo also claimed that Vice President Sara Duterte, her brother Davao City Congressman Pulong Duterte, and Singson were among the supposed financiers of the alleged coup plot. Tulfo, however, offered no evidence to back his claims and refused to reveal his source, saying only that the information came from a reliable informant. The Vice President has dismissed the allegations as mere rumors.
Kung napapansin nyo, ako ay hindi talaga ako nagbibigay ng mga aligasyon kung wala akong ebidensya. No? So, yung mga ganyan, kapag meron kang aligasyon, wala kang ebidensya, ang tawag dyan ay chismis o ang tawag sa iyo ay chismosa.
Congressman Pulong meanwhile has slammed as mere imagination the insider list posted by Tulfo. In an interview with Storycon, Defensor said that while he will participate in the upcoming anti-corruption rallies before November 30, he is not involved in any political withdrawal of support or other destabilization plans.
Totoo na dun sa pag-organize ng rally, kasama ako dyan. Pero yung sasabing distab, hindi ako kasama dyan. Kinonvene namin yung People's Coalition, andun yung UPI, si General Pokis nandun, si Greco Belica naman from the People's Council. So, tulong-tulong lang ma'am kung ano yung mga kailangan. Yung iba sa program, yung iba sa logistics, yung iba sa sound and stage. Ambag-ambag lang.
Singson also told the big story that he is not involved in the reported coup plot. He also claimed that one or two individuals on Tulfo's list have already been paid and are considered insiders for the administration.
Panakot nila ito sa mga tao. Walang katotohanan.
Mayor Magalong also rejected attempts to link him to the alleged plot, calling the claims baseless and harmful to national unity. He added that as former police officer and now public servant, his loyalty is to the Republic and the people, and not to any political faction or personality. Meanwhile, Malacanang confirmed that the Armed Forces Intelligence Community is verifying reports of an alleged destabilization effort. Press Officer Claire Castro urged the public to be cautious about unverified information circulating on social media.
Hindi naman po ibig sabihin na nasabi sa social media ito ay agad na dapat paniwalaan. So kailangan po nilang i-validate at sa ngayon po ayon sa AFP, nasa intelligence community na po yan. Kung meron sila makikita dapat na talagang pagtuunan ng pansin, ito naman po ay hindi tutulugan ng ating Pangulo.
Now, former Public Works and Highway Secretary Manuel Bonoan, who is among those accused in the alleged flood control scam, has reportedly left the Philippines. According to the Department of Justice, Bonoan traveled to the United States to accompany his wife, who is undergoing a medical procedure. He is expected to stay there until December 17. The Bureau of Immigration confirmed that Bonoan departed for Taiwan on Tuesday before proceeding to the United States. Although Bonoan is included in the Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order, authorities clarified that he does not have a whole departure order, which means he was legally allowed to leave the country.
The House of Representatives is pushing two key measures aimed at strengthening good governance and fighting corruption: the Independent Commission for Infrastructure Bill and the Anti-Political Dynasty Bill. Here is the report.
The Independent Commission for Infrastructure Bill and the Anti-Political Dynasty Bill. These are the two priority bills of House Speaker Bogie D. III as the House of Representatives resumed plenary session on Tuesday afternoon. The lower chamber called off Infracom hearings 2 months ago to give way to the creation of the ICI. But D pointed out in his plenary speech that the Filipinos have zero tolerance for corruption, thus pursuing the bill. The Independent Commission Against Infrastructure Corruption Bill aims to give more powers to the ICI. This includes possibility to directly file complaints, cancel registration of establishments involved in flood control projects, and revoke professional licenses of implicated officials. Further, D vouches.
Malinaw ang ating mensahe. There will be zero delays in the passage of this measure because our people have zero tolerance for corruption. Ang direktiba natin dito, we will pass this before we adjourn this December.
Aside from the ICI bill, D also mentioned that the Anti-Political Dynasty Bill will be a priority for the Congress. The Speaker acknowledges that he is no stranger to the allegations of being part of a political family, yet also believes,
Hindi ko po itinatanggi sapagkat naniniwala ako na ang paglilingkod ay hindi minamana, kundi ipinagkakatiwala ng taong bayan.
The Anti-Political Dynasty Bill has long been in discussion in Philippine politics, but it is yet to be passed into law after years or even decades of race in the Congress. This time, D wants to continue gaining greater public trust through these reforms in governance.
Patunayan po natin, hindi lamang sa salita kundi sa ating mga gawa, na bukas at handa tayong makinig sa ating mga kababayan. At dahil dito, nagmumula ang tunay na direksyon ng ating pong pamahalaan.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
And to talk more about these recent political developments, we are joined by Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of UST Department of Political Science. Good morning, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Sir Angelo and Ma'am Angela. Thank you for having me.
All right, Doc. There's so much happening right now, but let's first start off yung news and reports about destabilization efforts against the current administration. Now, there have been denials, but alam naman natin where there is smoke, there is fire.
Well, yes. Oo nga, no? When there's smoke, there's fire. No? Kasi this kind of rumor or information would not just come out if it would have no basis at all. Ano? Kasi mahirap naman mag-imbento ng isang storya nang wala man lang pinanggagalingan o pinaguhugutan. So, the Vice President is correct in pointing out that, without any evidence, this would be dismissed as rumors.
Yes.
Kaya nga lang, of course, if you were part of the administration, you would take this seriously. Any rumor that seeks to oust the president should be taken seriously. Kasi nga, if you're going to look at the context, it's possible that any political organization would want to oust the president, given the amid the corruption scandal. And of course, other issues that have something to do with politics. Say, for example, the talks about the possibility of filing, another impeachment complaint against the vice president by next year. So, yun.
Pero Doc, it looks like smoke is coming from retired officers based on reports. And also political factions. A lot have pointed out that these won't work if you don't have active officers, if you don't have a majority of the middle class who are in position.
Oh yes, that's right. Kasi if one is very familiar with the extent of influence that the retired officers have on the active officers, makikita mo it's really very limited.
Yes.
It's very limited. Kahit pa sabihin mong mga prominent military figures yan, pero retired naman, I don't think that a huge number of military officers active are going to follow, or are going to be influenced. Even though historically the military has always been involved in any political upheaval in the country, but if you're going to look very closely, the military before it joins any political action, it would really think very hard. The establishment would really think very hard. Hindi siya padalos-dalos, kasi nga, based on the Constitution, of course, it's also, there's a constraint that's coming from the Constitution that says that the military should be apolitical.
Okay.
Tugtong lang, and then and also, I don't know about your thoughts on this, but it lacks also daw the spark. It's because parang limited daw sa Duterte faction ang rumors na ito, and even the other side, the supposed yellow and the pinks, who are anti-Marcos previously, are now not supporting any calls for his resignation.
Oh yes, probably because if the call for resignation of the president, or any attempt to oust the president would happen, the people know very well who's going to benefit from this. Of course, alam naman natin yung line of succession based on the 1987 Constitution, that the vice president is going to take over in case the office of the president is going to be declared vacant. And if you're going to ask the Filipino public, I don't think that they like that kind of scenario. I don't know if any survey has been done about it, pero ang based on the yung mga usap-usapan, they do not like that scenario. Kung magawan between two evils, they would prefer the lesser evil. We're not saying that both of them are what do you call this, yung ideal. We would present an ideal government, pero between two evils, I think given the problems that our country is facing, doon na tayo sa lesser evil.
Okay. So, yan din ang nakikita din ng ibang mga tao na kaya hindi daw pumuputok man itong usapin na to, hindi mag-prosper because wala naman daw silang backup plan, no? So, dito na lang tayo dun sa sinasabi mo nga na lesser evil. But, of course, as I've said, as Diego said also, this is not the first time that we heard reports of plans to unseat the president. Pero, how will this affect, the government, or the public's trust with the government, no? Kasi I think a few months ago we had surveys na although mataas-taas pa rin naman yung public perception, public trust sa gobyernong ito, pero nakikita natin na may pagbaba din.
Oh yes, because the public awaits the drastic actions that should be done by the government with regard to the corruption scandal regarding the infrastructure projects. Although may ginagawa yung alam ng publiko na may ginagawa yung administrasyon, yung gobyerno, pero hindi sapat kulang pa rin yun. So I think how many months have gone by since this was the investigation started at the Senate and the House, and until now no one has been detained among the political figures, among the public servants involved, as well as yung mga bureaucrats na involved. So kahit natutuwa yung mga tao sa ginagawa, yung mga aksyon ng administrasyon, hindi pa rin sila satisfied. Kasi nga, ang gusto nila makita dito, may makulong, magkaroon ng trial, at papanagutin yung mga, if possible pa nga, dapat maibalik yung mga nakaw na na mga pondo in whatever form, kung assets man yan ng mga contractors. So mataas yung expectation ng mga tao, even though they have expressed some kind of satisfaction, some level of satisfaction toward what the government has been doing.
So, Rafi, I want to take some words or want to scoop from words from what you said kanina na although may ginagawa naman yung administrasyon pero parang kulang pa At ito nga, no, yesterday, nabalitaan natin na si former DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan is out of the country already. Although sabi nila hanggang December 17 lang sila doon. So, ang mga tao ngayon, ang napapaisip kahit sinong makausap mo, sasabihin nila, ito bang ginagawa ng administrasyon ay lip service lamang? O paano tayo magtitiwala na talagang seryoso sila sa ginagawa nilang investigasyon? And sabi nga ni Secretary Vince Dizon, Vince Dizon, sabi niya ay by December baka may makukulong na. Pero parang nakikita natin dito, baka by December baka wala na silang lahat dito sa Pilipinas.
Oo nga, no, to think na si former DPWH Secretary Bonoan ay isa sa mga nirekomenda ng ICI na dapat file ng kaso o finila na yata ng kaso. So it's definitely a concern for all of us. Tayo mga nakasubaybay sa kung anong mangyayari dito sa corruption scandal na ito, if the government really is very serious. Kasi alalahanin natin, yung isang nasa labas na, si former Congressman Zaldico, wala nang planong bumalik. So I think it's valid for us to be worried about this, na baka si former Secretary Bonoan hindi na rin bumalik, even though meron naman siyang sabihin na natin na valid na excuse dahil mag-undergo na medical procedure yung kanyang wife, then meron siyang excuse. Pero ang tanong doon is paano kapag di na bumalik? Si former Congressman Zaldico, hindi mahuli-huli eh.
Hanggang ngayon hindi makancel yung passport niya.
So Doc, ano yung mo dito sa tingin mo based on all the smoke and fire we're seeing? If hypothetically by let's say Feb, 'di ba? Kasi Feb lagi ang timeline ng mga sabi nila pagdating ng Feb wala na yung ubos na yung 13-month pay, wala nang pera mga tao, mainit ang ulo. If Feb wala pang nakulong na big fish, puro DPWH assistant engineer and engineers, how do you think the public will react then?
Well, I think I think they will get angrier. Oo, kasi parang lumalabas, minamanipulate na ng government o administration itong mga investigations na nangyayari. So it will definitely, if nothing's going to happen by February, ganun pa rin, definitely yung trust that the public has or the public have on the government is definitely going to erode. Tuloy na silang mawawala ng tiwala sa puntong iyon, and baka magtuloy-tuloy na naman yung mga protest rallies and I don't know, kasi kapag nawala yung tiwala ng publiko, talagang it's going to undermine the legitimacy of the administration. So that could probably, if that would happen, that could probably lessen the effectiveness of the current leadership in terms of governance.
That's right.
Baka hindi na sumunod yung mga tao at di na magtiwala.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of UST Department of Political Science. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat po.
Now, more people have been confirmed dead due to recent typhoons. According to the Office of Civil Defense, the death toll from Typhoon Tino has climbed to 232. It also left 112 individuals missing and 512 injured. Meanwhile, 25 people were killed in the aftermath of Super Typhoon Uwan. At least 29 individuals were injured, while 2 are still missing.
Residents of Aurora, where Uwan made landfall, have yet to recover from the super typhoon's onslaught. Let's check the situation on the ground with Mobile Journal Evan Tarinque. Evan, kamusta na dyan?
Angela, Diego, ngayon medyo mga araw na kumpara doon sa mga ilang araw. Pero kahapon ilang araw yung tatlong bayan sa may Northern Aurora. Ngayon ay maaari na itong maabot dahil matapos nga payagan na makadaan yung ilang mga motorista ng nasirang daan sa may Ampere Boulevard, yung coastal road na binasag nung malakas na daluyong ng tumama. Ito nga si Super Typhoon Uwan. kahapon nakita natin ginamitan na ng heavy equipment para kahit paano mapatag, madaanan na yung kalsadang ito. Pero unfortunately, medyo dahan-dahan pa rin yung daloy ng trapiko dito dahil rough road at talagang one lane lang yung gumagana sa mga oras na ito. Pagkatapos naman nun, dahil nga nakita na tayo, puntahan na natin yung ilang mga lugar pa sa Northern Aurora. Kahapon binisita natin itong yung pinaglandfallan ng super typhoon, itong dinasalang sa may Aurora, kung saan nga nakita natin yung ilang mga bahay dito nalubog doon sa mga buhangin, no? Dahil ganun katindi yung lakas ng alon at yung daluyong na tumama nga sa kanilang lugar. Kwento ng ilang mga residente, first time daw na mangyari sa kanila na ganun kataas at ganun kalakas yung mga alon na tumama sa coastal community nila. Fortunately lang daw, nakalikas daw sila ng maaga pa dahil kung hindi daw, baka nadamay sila doon sa malalakas na alon. And sa ngayon, no, maraming tayong mga kaibigan, mga nakausap, mga residente na walang mga bahay dahil nga doon sa mga daluyong na tumama, no. Yung ilan naglagay na lang ng mga trapal para pansamantalang silungan habang wala pa raw sila mauuwian at habang kinakausap pa raw nila yung mga kamag-anak nila kung saan sila pwede mag-stay. Pero nangako naman ng provincial government na tutulungan sila makahanap ng mga relocation site at ng mga gamit na pambuo ulit ng kanilang mga bahay. Diego Angela.
Alright, maraming salamat at mag-ingat ka dyan, Mobile Journal. Evan Tarinque reporting from Aurora. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Several local officials in Cebu are now facing administrative and criminal complaints. They're being accused of neglect of duty for allegedly being out of the country at the height of Typhoon Tino. Here's the report.
Several Cebu officials, including Congressman Duke Frasco and 7 mayors, are facing administrative and criminal complaints before the Ombudsman. They are accused of violating the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials, and the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010. The complaint was filed by Attorney Julito Anyora Jr., who alleged that the officials were abroad during Typhoon Tino, leaving their constituents behind at the height of the disaster.
Tayong mga constituents ay parang ginagago na ng mga local chief executives o ng mga government officials when they should have been leading us. So that's the reason why I have been filing this case. This is a call for public accountability.
Based on Travel Authority documents signed by Governor Pambari Cuatro, the officials were in Europe from October 30 to November 7, the same period Typhoon Tino struck Cebu. Hindi kasama sa kinasuhan pero kabilang sa humiling ng biyahe si Board Member Andre Duterte at Bourbon Mayor Dotillos na hindi na tumuloy dahil sa paparating na bagyo. Compostela Mayor Philly Jerquinho denied accusations that he was absent during the storm.
During sa bagyo, bisag sa mayura, di gid matubang sa bagyo kay bisag sa pagmayura to yung makasagang sa bulog sa tubig ikan sa kabukiran.
In a statement, Congressman Duke Frasco defended his travel, saying it was an official mission as part of the Philippine delegation to the World Travel Market in London, a major international tourism expo. He added that he returned to the Philippines immediately after learning about the flooding in Cebu. Meanwhile, Malacanang reminded public officials that their duty is to serve, not to take leisure trips during crisis.
So dapat ang trabaho ay para sa taong bayan. Kasi ang taong bayan umaasa po sa gobyerno, lalo na sa mga gintong klaseng sitwasyon at kondisyon. So hindi pwedeng sabihin lang na chill-chill lang palagi, dahil dapat trabaho, hindi bakasyon.
Following the controversy, the Department of Public Works and Highways convened a meeting to review Cebu's flood control master plan, vowing to work with other agencies for a more integrated water resources management approach instead of relying solely on flood structures.
Joining us now is Attorney Julito Anyora Jr., the complainant who filed administrative and criminal charges against several Cebu officials. Attorney, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, all right, attorney, what pushed you to file this complaint against yung mga officials, no? I think mostly sa Cebu?
Yes, sir. I actually hear when the typhoon has caused damage here in Cebu. I've seen firsthand the onslaught of Typhoon Tino that has caused plenty of casualties, most specifically here in Cebu. I have participated the relief operations, most likely in Talisay and in Liloan. And I've seen firsthand that and talked personally with the victims that there were no local officials that have assisted their agony during these times of crisis. And when I heard the news that our local chief executives, most local chief executives in the 5th district are not around, precisely because they were in London for personal travel, I have the urgency, the moral sense of urgency to file cases against them because, their acts of being not around here in the Philippines actually violate RA 10121 or the Disaster Risk Management of 2010. Their acts could also be a violation of RA 3019 or your Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, RA 6713, or the Code of Conduct of Public Officials and Employees, your RA 7160, or your Local Government Code of 1991. The case I filed actually is not really for vengeance. I just have to make it clear. This is really a call for public accountability to all of these local chief executives.
Okay. Attorney, what do you have to say to the statement of Congressman Duke Frasco saying na ito daw pong complaint na to is based on erroneous assumptions and misrepresentation, saying na legit naman yung kanilang may travel authority sila to leave the country para dun daw sa kanilang pupuntahan na conference ba yun whatsoever?
Well, as for Representative Duke Frasco, I actually anticipated his defense. If I have to read his arguments, he mentioned that as a legislator, my constitutional duties encompass representation, lawmaking, and oversight. But I just have to correct him because, under Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution, members of Congress perform legislative and oversight functions. These oversight functions include the power to request, the power to facilitate, the power to expedite assistance. So I have included that in my complaint, if I may read. In times of calamity, this means direct coordination with the NDRRMC, the SWD, DPWH, DILG, PNP, and Representative Duke Frasco has that power because he is the national representative of the district. So even if he would argue that, the power is to legislate law, and he would in fact tell us that he has travel authority. But travel authority does not, even if validly issued, does not suspend, diminish, override, or exempt a public official from the mandatory legal duties imposed upon them by the Constitution. RA 7160, RA 3019, RA 6713, RA 10121, and of course, the constitutional provision, Article 11, Section 1 of the 1987 Constitution.
Attorney, on a broader perspective, don't you think also, of course, we're not lawyers here, at that point when the Cebu province received a announcement from Pag-asa, October 27 kasi yun and November 1 sila umalis, diba? Don't you think that also Governor Pambaricuatro has somewhat accountability here as well, na sana binawi na lang niya yung travel authority that she signed?
Well, I cannot speak in behalf of Governor Pambaricuatro, but in my legal analysis, the act of approving is different from act of withdrawing. In fact, 8 mayors have submitted their travel authority before the office of the Ombudsman, and it is their discretion to cancel it or to proceed or not to proceed. In fact, the mayor of Bourbon Mayor Nico Dotilos has canceled his travel authority because of the impending disaster of the typhoon.
Pero
clarify ko lang, attorney, sino nag-grant ng travel authority? Is it the DILG or the governor?
The governor.
Okay.
And then, of course, attorney, ang tanong dito, di ba, sinasabi nila itong mga complaints na to against them is more on political perception din. So, ang tanong dito, attorney, meron bang political head behind this complaint?
I'm a public advocate ever since. I would not file cases if I did not see any legal dilemma. I have been filing cases against Governor Gwen beforehand. I've been filing cases against public officials if I see that they have violated the law. I have been very vocal about this issue because I have been labeled as having had support by politicians or groups, or some sectors would say that I have received support from Governor Pambare Cuatro. But, I did not receive any such support. In fact, I decided to file case only on November 9, 2025. And I made the pleadings on November 10 and submitted it by November 11. So I don't really see such arguments, in the social media. But, people are entitled to their own opinion.
That's
right. Coming from the perspective of a lawyer, I do not have any support from these politicians.
Right. Attorney, in case, last on my part, in case they're found guilty, yung mga kinasuhan mo, ano ba yung punishment sa mga kaso na final mo?
Well, the prayers that I've asked for the Office of the Ombudsman is to conduct full criminal and administrative investigation. Once these administrative investigations are ongoing, I've asked the Office of the Ombudsman to place these respondents under preventive suspension. I've also asked the Ombudsman to find respondent liable for gross neglect of duty, grave misconduct, dereliction of duty, conduct the judicial to the best interest of service, violations of 6713, RA 3019, and of course RA 7160.
Okay.
For criminal charges under RA 3019, Section 3E and 3F.
All right, we will continue to get in touch with you regarding this issue. For the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Attorney Jolito Añora Jr.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let's now check the situation in Camarines Sur. Days after the onslaught of Super Typhoon Uwan, we have mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Arles, go ahead.
Arles? Arles, can you hear us okay?
We're troubleshooting the line kasi ilang days na nahihirapan tayo sa signal with these locations. Most communication hubs have been knocked down kasi in the areas na dinaanan ng bagyo.
Yes, and in Camarines Sur, dyan din natin nakita na in some areas, hindi lang baha, may lahar din, di ba, na nasama doon. And at the time that we were talking to Arles, talagang gabundok pa yung lahar doon sa mga residential areas. So we would like to know, we want to get an update from him regarding that. And of course, yung mga areas na wala pang kuryente, etc. But for the meantime, the Philippine government will repatriate 346 overseas Filipino workers who became victims of human trafficking in Myanmar scam hubs. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro confirmed the repatriation during a press briefing. A chartered flight from Bangkok, Thailand is scheduled to bring the OFWs back to the Philippines today, November 12. Agencies including the Department of Migrant Workers and the Department of Foreign Affairs will coordinate repatriation and provide support to victims upon arrival. Over the past 2 years, thousands of Filipinos have fallen prey to similar schemes, with Myanmar emerging as a major hotspot for these illegal operations. All right, at this point, let's get back to Arles, who's in Camarines Sur. Arles, can you hear us okay now?
Angela, tama no, pero wala pa tayo sa Camarines Sur sa oras na ito. Nandito tayo ngayon sa isa sa mga probinsya pa rin ng Albay kung saan makikita ninyo sa aking likuran patuloy ang pag-aayos ng ating mga kapatid mula sa para sa pagbabalik ng kuryente ng ating mga kababayan dito. Umabot na kasi sa punto na idedeklara na nasa state of calamity ang probinsya, ang lalawigan ng Albay dahil sa naitala ng mga pinsala nito sa agrikultura, sa naranasang pagbaha, maging sa damage nito sa iba't ibang mga infrastruktura, kagaya na lamang dito sa Tiwi Albay kung saan marami pa din ditong barangay ang nananatili na walang mga kuryente dahil pa din doon sa super bagyong si Uwan. Sa pinakahuling tala, umabot sa 100,000 na mga pamilya o katumbas ng 331,000 na mga individual ang inilikas mula sa iba't ibang bahagi ng lalawigan, samantalang naitala naman ang pinsala sa agrikultura sa abot sa 714 million pesos. Gayon naman sa mga maisan at sa mga high value crops na umabot din sa ilang milyong piso. Pero itong nakikita ninyo sa ating screen, ayan yung nakuha natin kahapon doon sa Camarines Sur sa lalawigan sa munisipalidad ng Nabua, kung saan ektarya na mga palayan ang lubog sa tubig nadala nito na ulan ni Super Bagyong Uwan, at maaring buwan pa daw ang bilangin bago humupa ang tubig na ito. Kaya naman problema ngayon ang ating mga kapatid na magsasaka kung paano may tatawid ang kanilang pang-araw-araw dahil ipinang-utang lang nila, Angela at Diego, yung ipinangtanim na binhi ng mga palay nito.
Arles, what kind of assistance ang ibibigay ng LGU para sa mga farmers na ito? Kasi looking at the video, ang lawak ng baha, And mostly the entire rice fields covers ilan mga hektarya yan?
Diego, doon sa sukat nito, hindi bababa sa 2.5 hektarya yung lawak nitong rice field na ito, At ayon naman doon sa tulong na ibibigay ng lokal na pamahalaan, sa ngayon ina-assess pa ng probinsya ng Camarines Sur yung damage sa agrikultura at maging infrastruktura dito sa nagdaang Super Bagyong Uwan. Pero bukod kasi dyan, Diego, sa mga palayan, may mga barangay pa din na lubog pa rin sa baha. Kagaya doon sa Milaor, kung saan 20 mga barangay yung nakaranas ng pagbaha, bunsod ng Super Bagyong Uwan, kung saan yung mga residente ngayon ika-5 araw na nila nalubog pa rin sa tubig baha. Hindi bababa sa 2 beses daw, taon-taon nilang nararanasan yung ganito, At nung Super Bagyong Christine, aabot nga daw ng lampas tao pa yung tubig doon. Pero naagapan naman nila ang kanilang kaligtasan dahil maaga silang lumikas sa kanilang mga lugar.
Well, of course, the whole country now is under state of calamity as per the declaration of PBBM for a year. Ngayon, meron bang sinet na timeline ang mga opisyal dyan sa Albay para mas matulungan yung ating mga affected na mga kapatid dyan? And of course, we would also like to get an update from you kasi we remember the other day you were in the area of kung saan maraming may mga lahar. Diba? Gabundok yung lahar doon. Yun ba ay na-clear na as we speak?
Tama ka dyan, Angela. Nalinis tayo yung bahagi na iyon sa Barangay Masarawag sa Ginubatan, Albay. Nakita natin na pag-alis natin doon sa lugar, nagpatuloy pa rin yung clearing operation. At isa yun sa mga prioridad, nang sa gayon, madaanan na talaga yung kalsada doon. Pero isa kasi sa mga naging hamon naman doon, nung nalinis na yung bahagi ng kalsada na yun, yung alikabok na maaring maka-perwisyo naman sa ating mga kapatid doon, hoping na hindi ito mas kumapana. At yung pagbabalik kasi ng mga kapatid natin doon, tila pwede na dahil nag-subside naman na yung baha doon at nalinis na rin yung lugar.
Arles, mukhang may umaakyat na sa poste sa likod mo. Is that a lineman para sa kuryente?
Tama, Diego, dito sa TV Albay. So papakita ko
brown out pa ba ngayon, Arles? Wala pang kuryente where you are?
Nandito tayo ngayon, Diego, kapapasok lamang natin ng TV Albay, kung saan kahit dito sa aking likuran, makikita yung nalubog pa din sa tubig yung ilang mga pananim dito, and then sila nagpapatuloy yung kanilang pag-aayos ng mga kuryente dito nga sa linya na ito. Kung makikita man ninyo dito sa hindi kalayuan sa atin, nakahiga pa din yung mga poste. Ito kung makikita nyo, nakahiga pa din yung ilang mga poste ng kuryente, nakasama yan doon sa mga tinamaan talaga nitong Super Typhoon Uwan.
Arles, you're in Tiwi Albay, correct?
Tama, Jack.
So yung linya na yan, I presume that's a national highway. So the entire highway, puro poste, tumbay yung mga kable ng kuryente.
Tama ka dyan, Diego. May ilan na mga tumumba dito, pero doon sa unahang bahagi, medyo nakatagilid na lamang, hindi siya nakatumba totally, no? Medyo slightly bent siya. Pero kasama sa mga titignan pa natin dito, naitala kasi yung mga damage doon sa mga paaralan. Na isa rin sa mga problema dito, yung ilan mga lalawigan na ang mga munisipalidad dito sa Albay, nagbalik na sa normal yung klase, pero yung iba ay nag-option muna sila na either mag-modular or blended type of learning. Yung iba naman hindi pa din magbabalik klase dahil yung ibang mga eskwelahan nahagupit nito ni Super Bagyong Uwan at hindi din mapakinabangan sa ngayon. At bukod pa dyan, no, yung iba iniisip na baka sa mga susunod pa na araw makabalik yung regular na klase sa kanilang mga lugar.
Alam mo, Arlet, it's good that you mentioned about yung mga paaralan dyan, ano? Kasi I was gonna ask you nga about it. Kung ilan yung mga paaralan na nasira dahil sa Bagyong Uwan?
Hindi pa natin alam, Angela, yung eksaktong bilang nito, no, pero nakakita tayo ng isang paaralan dito, ang ating paaralan doon na tinatawag sa boundary ito, no, ng Camarines Sur, no. Ito mahigit 10 silid-aralan ng Kararayan Naga Elementary School ang tila nagkapira-piraso, no, dahil nga sa lakas ng hangin at ng ulan na dala nito ni Super Bagyong Uwan. Hindi daw sa ngayon magagamit pa itong mga paaralan na ito, no, at kailangan pang i-assess kung paano mangyayari ang pag-aayos dito at kung ilang araw ang tatagal nito. Ayon sa caretaker ng paaralan, bigla na lamang daw nilang naramdaman dito noon yung tumama yung super bagyo, yung pag-angat ng mga bubong, no, and then nakita na natin sa mga pictures nila online na ganito na talaga ang sitwasyon na ito. So ngayon titignan natin at sisilipin natin sa ilang minuto lamang kung ano na nga ba ang sitwasyon dito at ilang araw bago mabuo muli ang mga paaralan nang sa gayon ay mapakinabangan ng mga kabataan.
Alright, thank you for that. Arlos de los Santos reporting live from Albay. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Now, at this point, let's check the situation in Tuguegarao. We have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes on the ground. Merimon, tell us what's happening there.
Angela, hello. Magandang umaga sa inyo. Nakatayo ako dito sa Tuguegarao City People's Gymnasium kung saan nagsisilbi itong command center. Nagsama-sama sa puwersa dito, ang Social Welfare Development Office, ang mula sa medical, even sa Coast Guards, pati ang pulisya, para magsilbi command post ito. At dito, magmumula rin yung pagpapatuloy ng pagpapadala nitong mga relief goods para sa mga barangay dito sa Tuguegarao City. So far kasi as of 9 o'clock AM sa datos na nakuha natin, still 44 out of 49 barangays dito sa Tuguegarao ang nananatiling lubog sa baha. Ang nasabi sa atin dito ni Lieutenant Colonel or Chief of Police ng Tuguegarao City na si Sir Darwin Urani is the latest daw is baka by Friday doon talaga tuluyang magsasubside na ang baha, lalo na dito sa 44 out of 49 na mga barangay. So far, ang mga apektadong pamilya, 5,386 na flooded families. Ito yung bilang nila since Sunday kasi doon daw talaga nagparamdam yung peak nitong baha. 18,928 individuals naman ang bilang nito kada ulo. Sa ngayon, evacuation sites meron pa rin on standby. 15 ang naka-standby na evacuation sites. Ang active ngayon, 39 evacuation sites, 5 ang deactivated. And so far, ang nananatili pa rin doon lagpas 1,000 mga pamilya hanggat hindi pa raw talaga safe para makabalik sa kanilang mga tirahan. Mamaya rin, sasama tayo sa Coast Guard at dito sa pulisya para masilip pa kasi ang titignan nila ngayon, yung mga lugar po talaga nakakailanganin ng assistance plus ng relief or ng rescue. Nagpapahinga lang kaunti dito yung ilang mga kawani natin mula sa Coast Guard, mula sa PNP, pero anytime kapag lalong mayroong mga ngailangan daw ng tulong, quick response agad ang gagawin nila mula rito. Balik sa inyo.
Yeah, meron may datos na ba tayo as to how many families have permanently or temporarily lost their homes at anong assistance ibibigay sa kanila?
So far sa data na nakuha natin, meron lang 2 partially damaged na bahay. At ito raw ang nasabi, natamaan daw ito ng puno. Pero yung fully damaged na mga establishmento, kaya naman ng bahay, so far wala pang naitatala. Even from the Tuguegarao City, wala rin pang recorded casualty or missing individuals. Ang nasabi naman sa atin, medyo rare daw na mangyari yun. Pwera na lang daw kung meron talagang nalaglag sa Cagayan River. Even ang Bunton Bridge ngayon, inaantabayanan nila kasi bumababa na yung water level ng Cagayan River. Kagabi kasi nung hanggang sa nagbantay tayo doon, sinara muna temporarily ito dahil magpas na sa critical level. 9 meters high pero inabot na ng 11, 12 meters yung taas ng tubig doon. Pero ngayon na nasa 10, nearly 10 to 10.9 meters na siya. So pagka bumaba na, sana nga umabot na ng 4 meters na lang para hindi na talaga siya sobrang taas para ma-check na nila at matansya na nila lalong-lalo sa ibang bahagi ng Tuguegarao yung subsiding ng tubig baha.
Yes, because I remember 2 days ago, yung kanilang provincial rescue chief, si Sir Roeli Rapsing, saying na Tuguegarao is underwater. So it's good to know na kahit papano bumababa yung tubig na ito. But I was wondering also, can you tell us about yung impact ng Typhoon 1 sa farms and of course yung agricultural lands dyan sa Tuguegarao?
Oo, Angela, tama yan. Ang nasabi rin sa atin dito ng mga nakausap natin, itong si Lieutenant Colonel, isang pinaka-naging dilema sa paglilibot din natin dito is yung mga livestock, yung mga alagang pato, alagang manok, alagang baka, alagang kalabaw, especially doon sa mga flood-prone area. Yung ilan kasi sa mga flood-prone area na nakikita natin mga pangalan, ito sa Anafunan East, Anafunan West, Atulayan Norte, Atulayan Sur, Bagay, Buntun, Cagay at Kapatan. Karamihan daw talaga sa mga ito, bukod sa mga dumapa na mga palayan o kaya naman mga maisan, itong kanilang mga livestock talaga ang ilang mga nakita nilang problema. Kaya ibang mga dapat lumilikas sa kanilang mga tirahan, natili doon dahil nga mahirap iwanan yung kanilang mga alaga. Even tayo ngayon kasi bukas naman na ang Buntun Bridge pero bawal pa sa mga heavy loaded trucks tsaka sa mga papasaherong bus. Pwede naman na doon yung ibang mga light vehicles. Pagbaba natin doon sa gilid ng Buntun Bridge, may nakausap din tayo dito na marami siyang alagang pato, marami siyang alagang bibe, at saka baboy, tsaka kalabaw. And siya mismo ang sinabi niya, kahit siya pa yung pinakamalapit sa bungad ng Cagayan River sa ilalim ng Buntun Bridge, yun yung naging priority nila, yung mga alaga nila. Kasi mas mahirap daw magsimula ulit dito sa kanilang hanap buhay o negosyo kumpara sa, kung iisipin nila yung kapakanan nila o kaya yung ibang kagamitan nila. Pero yun nga lang, nakakalungkot kasi sa mga nakita natin, yung loob ng bahay nila, nalamas talaga ang doon sa bungad na pinuntahan natin kanina sa ilalim ng Buntun Bridge, is galing Solana yun na side, hindi pa Tuguegarao, sa Solana side yun, umabot daw hanggang Bewang. And nung nakita natin yung kwarto nila doon, para lang siyang kubo light materials lang din yung gamit nila doon. Makikita mo yung kahoy, parang tapyas-tapyas na siya dahil nga lumambot na sa nababad na tubig baha. And ang nasabi rin kasi sa atin dito, catch basin talaga ang Tuguegarao kasi sa Cagayan River, nakakonekta dito around 17 rivers pa, mga tributary river. Kaya even yung sa mga kalapit na mga lalawigan, so Mountain Province, Quirino, Kalinga, lahat yan, nagbababaan talaga, nasasalo talaga siya ng Tuguegarao. So, ang nasabi sa atin dito, mas dahil dito sa Super Typhoon 1, ang mas naging problema talaga nila, itong tubig baha. Hindi daw yung lakas ng hangin, hindi rin daw yung mabigat na buhos ng ulan, kasi iba nga yung naging daan dito sa norte ng Bagyong Uwan.
Well, siguro on my part na lang, Merrimon, I was wondering if you were able to talk to the yung rescue unit nila dyan, yung disaster response management nila, and natanong mo ba sa kanila kung ano yung learnings dito sa kanila mga disaster response para in the future, no? Kasi scientists have already warned na talagang mas malakas pa yung mga magiging bagyo natin in the coming years because of human-driven climate change. And are there also areas pa rin dyan sa Tuguegarao na no-build zone pero may mga nakatira pa rin?
Yung ilan sa mga napapag-usapan dito is yung dredging daw ng Cagayan River, pero ang problema kasi pagka nagawa yung dredging, kapag hindi daw natutukan talaga yung pagpapatibay nito, babalik at babalik daw ulit yung ginawang dredging. So yan yung number 1. Number 2, tinitingnan din dito yung pagpapatibay pa ng mga river control projects or programs, even flood control, kung magkakaroon o magpapaigting ng mga existing na mga ito. Plus, ang nasabi rin naman sa atin dito, hindi naman nangaraw bago sa Tuguegarao City yung mga bagyong dumadaan, especially yung pagbantay nila sa mga umaapaw na ilog o kaya naman yung nagiging tubig baha. Ang pinakatinitingnan lang din talaga nila dito is yung motivations or yung causes kung bakit yung ilang mga evacuees medyo nag-aalangan umalis sa kanilang mga tirahan. Kasama na nga dyan, itong hindi nila mapakawalan na tirahan o kaya naman yung kanilang mga hanap buhay o pinagkakakitaan, including ang mga livestock o kaya naman yung mga taniman nila. So yun yung so far na nakuha nating impormasyon mula sa paglilibot natin dito sa Tuguegarao. Mamaya kapag kasama na tayo sa kanilang rescue and relief operation, mas maganda siguro na doon natin din mas malalaman mula sa mga residente yung kanilang pagpapanatili sa kanilang mga tirahan. Pero sa pinanggalingan din natin sa kabilang side naman na, hindi dito sa Tuguegarao, doon sa isang side naman ng Cagayan, sa may Barangay Barangkwang, sa may Tuaw, yun din yung isa sa pinaka na nakita natin, yung mga maisa nila talaga doon dumapa. And for the others, marami naman nag-preemptive evacuation, pero babalik at babalik pa rin sila doon sa mga nasalanta nilang tahanan. Kasi ang problema nila, baka mas mahirap maghanap ng kanilang mga lilipatan. Kaya ang nasabi rin dito ni Vice Gov Mamba, titignan din nila ngayon yung possibility ng pagdagdag pa ng 2 relocation sites on the case of Tuaw, Cagayan, para raw masiguro yung safety ng mga residente sa low-lying areas, flood-prone areas, o yung mga lugar na delikado dahil baka malapit sa mga ilog. Angela.
Kasi ang key dyan, pag nag-relocate ka, dapat maganda yung livelihood kung saan mo sila i-relocate. Because kahit saan mo sila i-relocate, kapag walang livelihood silang makita doon na opportunity, they will always come back doon sa pinanggalingan nila. Maraming salamat, mobile journalist Merymon Reyes.
Katrina Ponce Enrile, daughter of Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile, confirmed that her father is currently in the intensive care unit due to pneumonia. Senator Jinggoy Estrada first revealed the matter during a Senate session yesterday where lawmakers offered prayers for Enrile. Estrada said he was informed by a reliable source that Enrile's condition is critical and that he has slim chances of surviving. A source also said that Enrile has been in the hospital for several weeks. He reportedly underwent a CT scan and had a medical tube placed. This is not the first time Enrile has been hospitalized due to pneumonia.
I have just received a very sad information that our former colleague, former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, is currently in the intensive care unit of an undisclosed hospital suffering from pneumonia. And I heard from a reliable source, a very reliable source, that he has slim chances of surviving. And I hope all of us here present can have a short prayer to be led by Senator Joel Villanueva.
Dakilang Diyos, amin pong idinadalangin at idinudulog sa iyo ang buhay ng isang aming colleague, mentor, Senate President, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile.
The MVP Group of Companies continues to accept donations as part of its Tulong Mga Kapatid Bayanihan Drive to help affected families by Typhoon Uwan. We are calling on the public to open your hearts and share what you can through Alagang Kapatid Foundation Incorporated. The bank details or QR code are now flashed on your screen.
And Ms. Amenchi Silvestre reminded everyone na if you make your donations, please get a screenshot at send it daw sa messenger or sa chat ng Alagang Kapatid Foundation to make sure na malaman nila na ikaw ang nagbigay. Para matrack nila lahat ng donations.
Yes, and only donate sa mga legitimate sources kasi marami ring mga nagkalat na mga scam ngayon. And of course, don't forget to support itong Bayanihan Drive po ng buong Kapatid Network through live selling. Wherein a lot of us here sa company na ito nag-donate ng mga sarili naming gamit para po maibenta, ma-live selling doon. Tapos lahat po ng mabibenta doon, yung proceeds will be donated sa Alagang Kapatid Foundation. So, mind for a cause, yun ang tawag nila.
Open your heart, di ba, for Christmas.
Yes.
Diba? And sabi nga nila, kindness goes a long way, especially for people in need.
Of course.
Dami nangyayari.
Yeah.
So much news, but that's not the end of the week yet. It's only a Tuesday. Tama ba? Wednesday?
Yeah. Wednesday.
Nahilo na ako. Wednesday.
Daming ganap kasi kahapon eh. Of course, yung kay former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, yung pag-alis ni Secretary Manny Bonoan.
Ano pa ba?
Yung
aftermath ng 2 bagyo.
Oo, yung pag-admit ni Senate President Tito Soto na meron na naman siya naririnig na mga coup plots sa Senado. Of course, Senator Batos supposed ICC arrest warrant. Ang dami talaga.
But let's not forget about yung mga allegations ng corruption sa mga ghost projects. Baka makalimutan natin yan. Okay, and that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are one you.
All sides, all the time.